Hello, and welcome to another edition of Odds and Ends. I'm Montgomery County Auditor Keith. I'm your host. This is our 39th episode, I think. So more than 3 years now we've been doing this, and we've really enjoyed the opportunity to meet some fascinating people who are doing great things in our community, and that's what it's all about. We want to try to introduce you to some folks that are doing wonderful things and hear more about the programs that they're involved with, and explain some of that good things that are going in our community, and some challenges, and some of the challenges as well. So again, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us again this month. Today, I'm very thrilled to have with me Maha Kashani.
Hello.
Maha is the Senior Sales Manager at IGS Energy, right? Senior Sales Manager at IGS Energy. She also serves as the Chairman of the Board, I think, for the Better Business Bureau. So we're going to learn about those things, but she does lots more than that. That's just the tip of the iceberg, and she's been a really community activist, an advocate for the community for a number of years now, and so we're going to find out more about her role in the community and the things that she's been involved with over the years. And we appreciate you being with us.
Yeah,
thank you so
you.
much. So, but let's start
Thanks
off.
for having me.
Well, let's start off about you.
Sure.
Give me a little bit of background of you and what you're all about.
Sure. Well, my name is Maha. I've lived here in this community since the mid-90s. I am an immigrant. I was born in Iran. We moved to the United States when I was 2.5, almost 3 years old. So first generation being here, and really came up in, I think in Centerville and Washington Township was just a really great and friendly community. I learned a lot of leadership skills young. I went to Spring Valley Academy. There was a lot of focus on leadership young, and went to the University of Dayton where it's all about learn, lead, serve. So I feel like volunteerism and leadership was just ingrained in me from a very young age. And
the whole family's here, right?
The whole family's here, and we also fled a war, the Iran-Iraq War, and
sure.
A lot of times I feel we're so lucky to have been able to get out, and my dad to be able to come to the United States and develop this life that we have here. So I do feel like I have a duty to give back and help others that aren't as fortunate, or make my community as strong as I can, because I have the opportunity to do so.
Well, great.
So that's what I've been doing, and so University of Dayton, and then I started at Cincinnati Bell. Cincinnati Bell was launching in the Dayton market. This was, I'm dating myself, about 20 years ago. So I worked at Bell for a long time. I did a little work with data centers with them, worked at large customers, a little bit with the hospitals, and then I was recruited at an NCCJ event, actually their annual dinner, which I think just happened like a week ago.
It was just a week ago. Yeah.
I was at that dinner, and I sat next to the vice president at DPL Energy Resources at that time, and she kind of took a liking to me and was like, hey, do you want a job? I was like, well, I have a job, but we started talking, and I started learning about energy, and they brought me in, and then AES acquired DPL around that time. So it's the kind of...
So this is started, when you started out, it was still DPL.
It was DPL, yeah. So this was DPL, made me a verbal job offer, but then they got acquired by AES Ohio. Then there was a bit of a freeze that was in place. So I kind of kept my head down, stayed in the telecom business, but then once things got settled, they reached back out to me and brought me over to energy. And although I have public utilities experience, I knew nothing about energy. When I was in telecom, I have a price to a customer. It's good for 90 days. In energy, it's good for 5 minutes sometimes.
Yes.
And so wrapping my brain around just how different these industries were was really challenging. But I kind of leaned back into what I know, which is grassroots, volunteering, getting involved in the community, networking, meeting people in the industry, and learning. I feel like I'm a sponge. I love to learn. I have this insatiable intellectual curiosity is what our COO once called it, where if I don't understand what we're talking about, I want to ask questions and I want to learn. And if I think I can explain it to somebody, I really want to make sure that I can become a subject matter expert and an advocate. So just through my utilities industry experience, over time, I just took on different projects. I worked extra hours. I took the time to read tariffs, which are some of the boringest things you could ever read, but I am a tariff expert in our company now. So that's been kind of my rise into becoming an energy advisor, essentially, for our clients in this community.
Your title is senior sales manager, but you and I were talking before we went on the air here, but you deal mostly with commercial customers, right?
Yeah.
You don't do residential.
I don't do any residential. Actually, I deal mostly with large commercial and industrial, or outside the box structured products. The national accounts, kind of the ones that are not standard in any way, they typically end up on my desk. So
as the sales manager, you're selling your your company's product, or
Sure. So,
what does that mean?
yeah,
what
we've
does
got a
a
few-
senior sales manager
Yeah,
do?
yeah. So we've got a few different products per se. So we're an energy company, natural gas, electricity. We also have a solar energy division, but I work with customers to understand what their current operations are, to understand how their current bills are being structured and their cost is being structured, and then I evaluate if there's different products or even different adjustments that can be made operationally to their load to either reduce their cost, protect their cost, manage the risk associated with their energy cost. For industrials, for example, the raw electricity line item is one of the largest budget line items that they have in their manufacturing process. So it's something that they pay very close attention to, and even a fraction of a cent here or there that they can shave off can lead to hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings for them. So we're doing a lot of proactive structuring is what we call it. So looking at their specific facility, their load, their operations, their growth, and then we tailor a product where we unbundle. So if I was to show, say at home, you're paying in the Dayton aggregation program, I think 8.7 cents. There's a lot of things bundled into that 8.7 cent rate. But for a small business or residential, it doesn't make sense to unbundle that and say, hey, let's look at these components differently. But when we're talking the largest energy consumers, we completely unbundle it. We fix some components, we float some other components, we adjust load when needed, but we're doing a very proactive energy management strategy that's focused on risk management, that's tied to market risk and load risk. So it's very different. To call it a sales manager is kind of an overarching title, but it is essentially, I'm an energy originator, so I work with the customers to understand their business and operations and then structure a solution that would give them the best cost outcome.
It's a big hat.
Yeah,
That's
it really is.
Basically what you're saying is a big hat, and you have to call it something. You have to call
Yeah.
it something. You know, I grew up in Butler County, and never imagined that I would be county auditor someday. I tell people I never imagined that I would be responsible for selling dog licenses and have my name on every gas pump in the county. Right? That was not
And registered.
Yeah, that was not my lifetime ambition. And of course, you've had a different life path. I mean, you're like you said, you're an immigrant. You came here when you were
I was almost 3, yeah.
almost 3. So I don't imagine you as a child ever imagined that you would be doing what you're doing.
Oh, no. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do. It's funny, the kids are like, what do you want to be? I remember I had a really great bus driver in first grade,
Okay.
and he gave us gum on Fridays, and for some reason, that was like the coolest person in my life, and I remember telling my parents, I want to be a bus driver. And I thought my dad almost fell out of his chair, like, a bus driver? Like, what? You know, I mean, I just think about my jobs, and then it was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut, because that was kind of cool, although I never was really strong in those kind of like physics or fields like that, but it was just like the idea of, and then I think you start to get confused as you become an adult. You start to see women pull back a little bit from STEM, and I think there's some of that is culture, some of it is what did you learn, what did you pick up, and part of it is like what is the path that you're on. So for me, I never knew. I would take these assessment tests, and most of them would come back as public relations, and you know, at age 14 or 15, I had no idea what that was. And
well, you're very personable, and you speak well, and so yeah, you would fall into that category.
Yeah, kind of that category.
Yeah.
So then I remember my senior year, and you know, internet wasn't really that prolific, but we had these career books in the library at school, and you would go, and I was like, pulled it out, public relations, and I'm reading about it, and I'm like, I'm just going to try it.
Okay.
And I went into PR, and actually it was amazing when I got into my core classes. I'm like, it's wonderful that I had no idea what I was doing, but I listened to these tests because it was exactly what I wanted to do and be. But then when I graduated and I started to look at jobs to be in PR, and I was like, well, I need to go to New York, or I got to go to Chicago, and it's like $25,000 a year in pay to live in Manhattan, and you need 4 rooms. I mean, it just started to look very unrealistic to me to have a job in public relations, and there is decent money in that career field as you go on, right, and as you move up. But from starting out, it was like, I don't even know that I can survive.
No.
And then I put my resume on Hire Flyer. The next day, I got a call from Cincinnati Bell that they were launching in the Dayton market, and they were looking for a sales rep. So I kind of got into utilities almost like by accident. I posted a resume. Back then, UD was on semester, and the rest of the state was on quarter, so UD got out a little earlier.
Right.
And my dad was like, well, you have this advantage. You're out, and you graduated, and you have your diploma, and you can work 6 weeks before everybody else, and you're just sitting on your butt. And I was like, all right, fine. So I put my resume on that Hire Flyer. I get a call the next day, and I got an offer within a week, and it happened very, very fast for me.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And then
Good for you.
it kind of worked. You know, I think life's taken me in a few different directions, and I've had just a tremendous amount of failure. I think a lot of times people look at me and think, wow, she's got a lot of success, but different career paths, different divisions I've worked on, different experiments, different customers, different projects that I've done that just didn't work out, that I learned an incredible amount from and was able to be a stronger person and candidate overall as a result of, are really what gave me the opportunity to get to where I am today and realize that really, failure is the best thing that can happen to somebody, because every time I was really successful, you almost lose track of what's going on.
That's very interesting. I don't look at you as someone who's experienced failure, so we could go there.
Sure.
But let's talk about your successes.
Sure.
Talk about your successes, because you've contributed a lot to the community. You said you've been very active in the community. People ask me, so what is she? I said, well, she works in the energy field, but she's really a community activist, a community advocate. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
So currently you serve, and so a number of different roles, and we're going to try to touch on some of those, okay? But currently you serve as the chairwoman, I think, for the board of directors for the Better Business Bureau. How did you get involved in that?
So actually, Leadership Dayton, class of 2010, they have a board match process, and I matched with the foundation board. As my kind of roll off of Leadership Dayton, that was the Better Business Bureau's foundation. So I was on that board for 9 years, I believe, and learned a lot about the community services that they do. So the Stop Shoplifting program and the financial programs and what we're doing on base. And developed a great relationship with John. John became a really great mentor for me. He was also incredibly active in the community.
Yes.
So when my term there expired, they said, hey, we're not really ready to give you up just yet. How do you feel about coming up to the big board?
Okay.
And that was the main Better Business Bureau Board of Directors. And so I joined that board in 2019, and then I became chairwoman in 24. So this is my second year. We've had a bit of transition. It's been kind of a challenging year overall, with the passing of John, who was our longtime president and CEO.
John North was the longtime president of the Better Business Bureau. As a
strong community advocate. A lot of that love
for
community.
Loss.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of that love for community and passion for community really came from John, and John had a really strong passion for helping young people himself. He was he became CEO before the age of 40, and he loved that people took a chance on him, and he always wanted to develop and take a chance on other young people, and that was something that really drew me to John, because I felt that same way. They were my peers really at that time, but this idea of professional development, and a lot of the people that we were running around with back then are really the community leaders now. I mean, the people who are in their late 30s, early 40s are running this community. It's amazing. But the investments that folks like John made in us when we were in our 20s was great.
Yeah, you're trying to make me feel old, right?
No. Not at all. But
some days, I walk out of my office and I look around at the people that we've got in there. And I go, when did I become the old guy here? What are all these kids doing here? It's exciting, though.
Well, Carl, you don't look like you've aged a day at all.
Thank you.
Can we throw up like an old photo of like when you first got elected to now? I don't know.
Yeah, let's not do
You're
that.
looking pretty good.
No, let's not do that. The hair color has changed quite a bit.
But so the BBB, so we had some challenges. We also had my vice chair at the time was an executive in the local community who decided to retire. And then we were on kind of a search for a vice chair, and it ended up being that I'm going to be taking on a third year as the chair for the BBB. So Matthew Sliver is now, who's Catapult Creative.
I know Matthew.
On. Yeah,
he's a great guy.
Great community advocate, super smart, really driven on the AI stuff, really I think can help lead the organization with that boots on the ground. And he's right there in the city, right next to their office too. So
the
I'm excited.
auditor's office has used Catapult Creative a little bit over the years. They do wonderful work. We've had a great relationship with them, so that's great.
Yeah, so
I knew Matt from I was on the Levitt board, Friends of the Levitt Pavilion, and Matt was on the Levitt board. I think he might be the chairman now of the board. I think
I met him through the Dayton Inspires and the cleanup. We would go clean up trash on the west side. That's how I know Matthew. We pull up our boots and go out there and clean up trash. And
see, so there you are. You're out there cleaning up trash on everything else that you do.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other organizations you've been involved with. Well, you tell me.
Yeah, so I'm also
you're on
the women's board for Dayton Children's.
Dayton Children's, right?
And,
I want to hear more about this Cha-Cha fundraiser.
Cha-Cha is amazing. So the women's board is the women's board was created many years ago, but it was all the women leaders from the different nonprofits in the community that came together to try to raise money to bring a children's hospital actually to this community. And then that's how Cha-Cha essentially started, which was Children's Hospital Association. Children's Hospital Association, Children's Hospital Auction. But the idea was they brought together all these women from these different, they were leaders of different groups, but they did this massively successful fundraiser in the community that was an auction that everybody loved, and that was the beginning of the Women's Board. So that has continued on with 40 women, geographically dispersed, different industries that we come from, different geographic areas in the community, and the idea is bringing these powerful women together to raise as much money as possible for children's. And we do that with our biennial fundraiser called Cha-Cha, and that's the auction I was talking about.
So Cha-Cha is not like, you don't
No,
do
it's
the
not like
Cha-Cha.
Cha-Cha.
You don't
No,
do the
it's
Cha-Cha.
Children's Hospital Associates, Children's Hospital Auction.
Okay.
Or some people say Children's Hospital Auxiliary, Children's Hospital
Okay,
Auction. So it is an
okay.
acronym for that. But it's the largest in the city fundraiser. We raised over $1.3 million last year.
Wow.
And next year the event is going to be in May. I'm sorry. And we're fundraising like crazy. We're looking for silent auction items. We also do a lot of advocacy at the hospital itself, volunteering at the hospital, and then advocacy in the community for folks to know what's going on. For example, mental health right now is the crisis of our generation, and Children's has really championed that effort. They got the new Mateel Center that has just opened here recently, and a lot of the money that we raised has gone towards that. But we're looking at the challenges that this community is facing, and we're bringing these women together to advocate for those challenges and raise money.
So the money you raise goes to the hospital
Yeah.
and whatever.
Well, so it went to the mental health initiative. So every year we do a Cha-Cha, we have a different initiative that it's going to go towards. So right now mental health has been a really big focus because of the new hospital that opened.
$1.5 million. What'd you say? $1 million?
For our new budget? Yeah. I don't know that we're up to $1.5 million just yet, but it's going to be a little over 1.3.
But okay, but the last time you raised 1.2.
Yeah, a little bit 1.3. Yeah,
1.3.
Right over 1.3.
So I'm laughing because let's see, we auction off our #1 dog tag every year, and we're thrilled that we get. Haven't got as much as $5,000 for the #1 dog tag. We thought that was really good.
Oh yeah.
And now we got to go for $1 million now. You know, the other thing I do a lot of is auction off cakes.
Interesting.
For the Dayton Realtist Group. They have a fundraiser every year, and we auction off cakes. And I just did Twin Tig. If you're familiar, I just auctioned off Twin Tig, and so we're happy to if we get $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So we're not doing it right. We're not doing it right.
Well, I think that people recognize that having a strong children's hospital is indicative of having a strong community. And I've done a lot of fundraising in Dayton, and I can tell you that children's is one of the easiest. People seem to just resonate with the mission and the message, and they know that having a strong children's is important, and being able to provide these services that kids need. So
you got a great CEO
different.
over there too.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah.
She really is incredible. She's led the organization and grown the organization like crazy, and I really love watching her work.
Yeah.
And I love that she came from a public background to where she is today.
And she knows how to build things.
Oh, she sure does.
She knows how to build
and
things.
inspire people, and she's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you mentioned Solvita.
Yes.
Earlier, so talk about that because
So
you're on the board there.
Yeah,
too,
I'm on
right?
the board of Solvita, and I'm also have worked with Solvita to bring one of the largest distributed solar arrays to Montgomery County.
Yeah, talk about the solar field there.
Yeah, so we built a 1.5 megawatt solar array out there. Solvita is formerly Community Blood Center, Community Tissue Services, and this is the Community Tissue Campus that's out at Research Park. Right. So we were able to get that array up in a little bit over a year. We just got permission to operate, and it was a collaboration between City of Kettering, AES Ohio, Miami Valley Research Park, IGS, Solvita, and Kokosing, who was the construction partner on it. But for 20 years, we're going to be generating renewable energy out there in Kettering, and again, it's one of the largest distributed means customer-sided solar arrays that we have here in the region.
I remember when the city Kettering city manager approached me because that property was in the CAUV program. That isn't an old cornfield, wasn't it? A soybean field?
I think there was a few things that were going on with the land. There was some covenants with respect to the visual aspect as well. Mm-hmm. There were some concerns, and then I think there's a mound that's there that's like protected federal land. So there's some really interesting things that are going on over there at Miami Valley Research Park.
So it's been a challenge. I think.
Was,
and this didn't happen overnight.
It did not, and it was just the collaboration to get everybody together. I mean, even things like the aesthetic. We chose a black fence instead of a traditional, steel fence, and we relocated. We tried to save a lot of trees. I mean, they have a lot of respect and honor for the land that's out there and that aesthetic piece and the green space. And so we removed some trees. We relocated a bunch of trees to try to protect that, and I think it looks great.
All right, let's go to Dayton Air Credit. Are you still
Yes.
the board treasurer
I
of the Dayton
am.
Air
Yeah,
Credit?
Day Air, yep. So Day Air Credit Union.
She just does everything.
That kind of came about as a surprise. You know, the way that we have it set up. Well, let me give you the background. I joined Day Air Credit Union when at University of Dayton. You register, you get your student ID, then you would go next door and get your bank account. That was kind of the process. They're no longer on campus today, but I've been a long time member of Day Air Credit Union.
Okay.
And I was approached by Bill during COVID, and he essentially said that, he's followed me for a long time. I went to Chicago, and they did a feature on me when e-check first came out and how I was able to live in Chicago. There was a credit union that was a block away, so I was able to do e-check. I was able to go to their ATM. I didn't have to leave Day Air, even though Day Air was very much a Dayton financial institution. So they kind of knew about me for a little while. Then I came back, and I was always a big supporter, but Bill reached out to me and said I had kind of a high community engagement score, and he would love to see me, involved with the organization a little bit more. And I came on as an associate director. And then when there was an opening, I got moved up to become a director, and then was elected 2 years ago. And then every year we have elections for the executive committee. And
they play an active role in the community.
Very
as
much
well,
so.
right?
I mean, the ballpark,
The
right?
ballpark is now
Especially
Day
after
Air
the
product,
ballpark.
right.
Yeah. And the ballpark, actually, we just had our strategic planning session. They have a beautiful new facility out there where it used to be, how they had 2 party decks? Now one of them is like completely enclosed and
Yes.
gorgeous, and we just had
Yes.
our meeting out there. That's a
Okay.
great new space that they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are a local financial institution. We are a credit union. We are member owned. A lot of what we're doing is just about the financial health of members here in the Dayton area.
One of the people we had on this program back a few months ago is the voice of the Dragons.
Oh, yeah?
The voice of the Dragons, and he did a wonderful job. It was really well.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to move to Washington Township.
Sure.
So you've been a long time resident of Washington Township, and so they've had funding issues. Is that fair to say?
The township, I don't know
I'm
if
sorry,
I would
the
say.
school.
The schools, yes.
I'm
yeah.
sorry, the school. Washington Township.
Township is,
school.
I think, doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
All that development, right?
Yes. Every year we do an auditor's update, and we bring all the different officials, and we talk about who's leading the area in new construction. The township's always at the top of it. So they're doing really well. I really meant the school district.
Yeah.
You've been involved with the school district and their levy campaigns for a number of years. And there's been some failures for you, right?
Oh, that's been pretty challenging. Well, what was really interesting is, I understood there was value to public schools and, strong schools, strong community, but until you have a child in a school and you understand, it's really hard to resonate with it. So my daughter was in preschool. We did our first year. It was great. I was in a preschool curriculum meeting. I was on that committee as well. And they brought up funding issues. And it was at the same time that I remember getting the letter that said, hey, property values are going up about 25%. And I'm disappointed that, as an average citizen, I was like, oh, well, revenue is just going to go up 25%. I was so involved in the community, but I really had no clue how property taxes worked. And then the principal of the preschool was like, no, it's a fixed levy, fixed revenue. That's why we have to be back on the ballot for a new levy, and kind of explain to me how it worked and how the funding structure works.
I spend a lot of my time trying to explain that. It's very
so
confusing
hard.
to people. Yeah.
The idea of the fixed dollar amount, and the your property value goes up, and that does not necessarily mean that you're contributing more. And trying to explain to people what it means about their average value, right? That piece. And for my house went up just below the average value, and I got like $100 discount on my property taxes, right? For example, and somebody's house who went up at the average value gets just a slight increase, and if you go up above, I know people that got big discounts on their property tax bill, and I know folks, especially in condos, that seem to have got a really big increase because condo values went up quite a bit.
Right.
And there was trying to explain that into the community, but the problem is that the school is performing
the school's
very
getting
well,
the same amount of money, but
and they're getting the same amount of
money.
money, and the state's not going to provide them a lot of funding. And if they want more, then they need to go to the community. The problem is it's not about wanting more; it's about wanting status quo. It's operating funds that need to be adjusted for inflation. It's not like the school district is wanting to add all these programs or do all these things. They literally were just trying to continue operating the way that they were operating before. So I was involved on the first levy committee, failed miserably. The messaging was just off. It was all about, we're proud of our schools and yay, but at the time where we had an inflation surge and people were struggling financially, the pride in schools was not going to be enough to get people to say, we need to, go out. And the district did a first round of cuts, which was a bit painful. Then the second levy came out, and they came up with more cuts, which were really very heavily focused in the classroom, a lot of aides, a lot of support, substitute teachers, things along those lines. And then after that failed, the third round, unfortunately, was extracurriculars and busing. That's not the direction that they wanted to go, but they already took a hit on like kind of what you might call any low-hanging fruit, right, on maybe some extra aids or things like that in the classroom, but there really was nothing else to do without destroying some of the quality of the education. So then they had to pivot to the extracurriculars, which just tore the community apart. I mean, we look at crime rates when communities lose their extracurriculars. What are those kids going to do? Centerville, gosh, my kid's like 6 and 4 or 5 nights a week we have something going on. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They're so busy, these kids, in a way that I don't remember being busy. But then you think about if they're not busy, what are they doing? Are they going to be on a screen, which is leading to a lot of mental health issues, or are they going to get in trouble?
Right.
So having those activities was really, really strong. But I learned how the tax code worked. Grassroots, boots on the ground with the community, talking to people about what it means, getting the support from even the private school folks or the fixed income folks, because it's not just about the kids in the schools, it's about the overall quality of the community.
I hear that from people who say, well, I don't have kids in school, but it's
But
about
you like
your
community?
It's
Yeah.
about your community.
You have a safe community, you have a warm and friendly community, you have all these services that are available. You like living here, and let's keep it that way, right? You can't cut services and pretend your community is going to be the same. And I think that I have a soft spot for folks, though. People talking about not being able to pay for their groceries, and I don't have kids, and I have to choose between the schools and the groceries. Like, hey, I get it. You have to do what's right for you, but when we have to collectively pay as a society to have nice things, and I think our community is so strong because of the support we have, the services we have, and the levies that we have.
And it's hard for people to grasp the concepts that of how this all works, and it's hard for people to realize, okay, our values have gone up, and we've seen because the real estate market is off the charts, right? And so we're responding.
Make it make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, we're responding to that, but the schools are living on revenue that was approved by the voters, 5, 6, 7 years ago or longer, and that revenue hasn't grown as prices have grown and salaries have grown and benefits and the cost of energy, all of that. But the schools are living on past revenue, and it's hard for people to, I think, grasp that sometimes.
Yeah, there's just this idea of this waste and fraud and all this wastefulness, but it's but if you think of how they're structured, I mean, they're in like a declining revenue model, right? Every year they have to figure out how to do more with less.
Right.
There's not really a lot of opportunity for waste. It's not like they're just flush with cash and just wasting all this money. And the way that it's structured is that you kind of build up a little bit of a pool, and then you work that pool down. That is intentional. That is how the state structured these levies. So people will look and say, oh, well, they have a little bit of cash, but they're on a declining revenue stream. They're not going to have that. They have to go into levy cycles. Right. There is no other option, or you just destroy the quality of education. Or what is going to happen with schools? Are we going to see consolidation of school districts? I mean, I'm not sure how school districts can survive, but I work with some schools around the state on some energy stuff, and this is a statewide struggle.
Oh yeah, and they a lot of talk these days about property tax relief and doing things, and some of my concerns is some of the answers that people have, some of the solutions coming out of Columbus are really
eliminate property tax,
really punish schools, punish local government, and this situation is not their fault. It's not their fault. They're trying to provide a service. They're trying to educate our students. And teachers deserve to be paid. People working in this industry deserve pay. And so
it feels like education was really, really important for a long time, and it feels like it's been completely deprioritized. We talk about the vouchers. We talk about the schools that are struggling, how the funding is set up. We can talk about the lie that was the lottery, right? That they said was going to go. And all the lottery money does go to the schools, but then the state just reduces their contribution, so there's no extra money.
There's no extra money.
Buying extra lottery tickets is not giving any extra money to the schools.
I do my part.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, that's not helping.
Not.
Nobody is out here really trying to help and educate the citizens about it. And then everybody's just thinking there's all this wastefulness that's happening, because that's the rhetoric that's coming out of sometimes Columbus and D.C.
My understanding is the lottery proceeds provide about 12% of the funding provided to schools in Ohio. 12%. That's nothing. That's nothing.
Right. But my understanding is that the state reduces their contribution by 12%. So it's not even like they get 12%. It's like it's the same.
Right.
And the state, I don't know. And then you have state elected officials that are like, we were lied to. So it's like, how can we just say we were lied to? Why don't we fix it?
Right.
Are citizens just okay with this idea that we were lied to about how things work? And now this idea of eliminating property taxes come up, and how do we pay for services?
Right. That's
it's scary.
Yeah. I'm going to have a program just talking about that
Yeah,
issue at some
absolutely.
point, because there's so much misinformation out there about
Yep.
that. So much confusion. Talk about confusion. That really.
Well, and to me, schools are like, we are developing the next generation of productive citizens of society. And I feel like education was incredibly important. If you look at the Ohio Constitution, when it was founded, early on, Centerville, Washington Township made massive investments into education. And a lot of these buildings are named after people that, really were champions of education, and our community was known for that.
Right.
And now funding is just messing it up. It's like this idea of money and having to support the schools is turning people off, but the schools need money, and these are children, and it's the next generation of society. So for me, it doesn't matter. Like, we just have to figure out a way to make sure that the schools are properly funded and the kids are getting support.
You started the program and talked about your heritage of being an immigrant.
Yes.
And so I did not want to end the program without giving you an opportunity to talk
Sure.
about your involvement with the Arab community.
Yes.
Because you were president of
I was.
that group for a while.
So let me give a little bit more context here, because I started off with being born in Iran, and Iran is a Persian country. So my mom is Arab.
Okay.
In the Iran-Iraq War, my mom's great-grandfather was of Iranian descent, moved to Iraq. Saddam Hussein pulled the list. Anybody who migrated into Iraq, their whole family was exiled. So my mom her mom, everybody was born in Iraq, knew nothing, got thrown into Iran. They got set up by the government in some homes, and that's ultimately how my mom and my dad met and got married. But so primarily a Persian home I grew up in, but half of my culture and identity is Arab.
Okay.
And there was this Dayton Arab American Forum group that was developed. It was actually very strong pre 9/11. And we saw a bit of a disassociation of people from their Arab culture and the Arab heritage, because there was so much negativity that was surrounding that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of advocacy that was happening through the
How'd
Dayton
your family
Arab
end up
American.
in
Dayton?
Dayton?
University of Dayton.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, my
okay.
dad was a professor at Michigan Tech.
Okay.
And then got recruited. Yeah. So
Okay.
we came to the United States through as education visa. My dad got his PhD at the University of Wisconsin, and then got a job offer at IU Purdue. So we were there for a year, then got a job offer at Michigan Tech. Did that for 6 years, and then we've been in Dayton ever since.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So University of Dayton is what brought us here. I'm a proud Dayton alum as well. But
So-
so we have that Arab side of the culture. So this organization kind of sort of went underground a little bit, and then came back up as a bit of a social organization maybe 15 years ago, and I got involved about 12 years ago, and I turned it more into like the social aspect, but the sharing of the culture, right? There's just this misnomer about Arabs and Muslims and all this negativity that, sometimes is out there, a misconception that's out there, but really incredibly friendly people, very delicious food, very deep and long-standing culture. So my thought was like, we just need to celebrate our culture and show people the culture, because inside of the Middle East and the Arab world, there's a lot of different factions. You have the Catholics, right? You've got the Chaldeans, you've got there's just so many different groups that are there. You've got the Druze, you've got the Muslims who are Sunni, you've got the Muslims who are Shia, right? And there's little differences or nuanced differences which sometimes make those groups kind of stay together. But the one thing that transcends everything is the culture, right? We're all eating the same food. We're all
Right.
listening to the same music
Okay.
in many respects. And so even though we see naturally that these Arab groups are creating their own pockets, we created this organization to bring everybody together. And that was really fun, and I rose up to become the president of that organization, and we did really well. And it kind of was after I had my second child, I felt like, started looking at the list of all the things I had going on, and where I had given contributions, and where I could give more, and I felt like I gave a lot to DAF, and that the leadership that was there, Lamis Mubaslet, she's been incredible, involved there. And
I know Lamise.
Yeah.
Lamise. Mhm.
So she's helped a lot, but yeah, just some new leaders out there, and they're doing a really great job, and I'm supporting them the best I can. But
Well, you keep a busy schedule.
Yes.
Maha, I am so impressed with you, and in a half hour here, we have covered a lot of ground, and because you're just a great community advocate, leader in the community, and in so many different ways, and so I'm just really glad you were able to be on the program
Yeah,
with us
thank
and
you.
learn a little bit more about you and all the different things you're involved with.
Sure.
And thank you so much for your
Yeah.
leadership in the community. Thank you for sharing with us
Absolutely.
today.
That's my motto. Is like, if you're happy, you're lucky enough to be happy and healthy, and if I can be thriving myself, it's just so deep inside me that like you have to give back. It's not right to just have success for yourself and not give as much of yourself to other people, and that's why I do what I do.
We didn't talk a lot about your family. You have two daughters.
I do.
You have two daughters, and one is in
First grade.
First grade,
One's in
right.
preschool.
One's
I got her Halloween party after this, actually.
Okay,
Rocking
because
those
I
balls.
I was at the Centerville pancake breakfast
Oh, yeah.
and had pancakes with one of your daughters
Yes.
this weekend. So yeah, Anyways, very nice to meet you.
trip.
Get to know you more.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for joining us.
And thanks for everything you're doing, Carl. You're educating the community about all the things going on that they need to know, and people need to listen because services are going to become crunched and funding is going to become crunched, and understanding the auditor's role and how taxes work and how those services work, which I know you're out there constantly advocating for, so thank you.
Thank you. That is, I tell my staff that we can never do this enough. We can never do enough to educate people. I mean, even something like the Homestead Program.
Yep.
We'll be out there talking to people about the Homestead Program, which has been in place since the 70s, and we'll have people tell us, well, never heard of this before. So
Yeah.
you're right, we can never do this enough. We can never do this enough, and so that's part of what this program is all about. And
That's great, thank you.
we appreciate doing it. So that's going to wrap us up for this episode of Odds and Ends. We're happy to have Maha Kashani that was joining us
Thank you
today.
so
I
much.
appreciate you, and we will see you next month. Thank you all.